Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Zoom at 8. We're here every Tuesday night. My name is Julie Ann Peterson. I am your host tonight and a senior director at Old Capital Lending. We are a premier provider for debt and specialists in multifamily. Of course, we'll do everything else in the commercial asset classes, but we really are specialists when it comes to multifamily. You know, we've closed 6,000 loans. So we know a little bit about how to get these things done, and we're real partners in the deal. I bring sponsors, I bring your insurance broker, your attorney, I've got them all, investors. So if you're looking for something that I can help you with, I'd love the opportunity. Certainly, first and foremost, would love to be your lender on your deal. I'm looking for your T12, your rent roll, your underwriting. I want to understand what you're trying to do. You know that 80% of the deals right now today are going on bridge lending, and this is short-term loans. So you got to know what you're doing. And in knowing what you're doing, you have to be educated. And so tonight, I'm super excited to have you meet and greet and listen to Gino Barbaro, who is with the Jake and Gino Education Program. And maybe you're looking for a specific mentor program, a specific program that will help you meet other people to take down deals. This is something special, and Gino is here to talk about it. Once again, Julie, Old Capital, so glad you guys are here. Zoom at 8, it is great. And I want to thank you for making this a priority for yourself, for your family, for your future, is really what it comes down to. But tonight is really special. And I feel like I hit the jackpot that I got Gino here to join us tonight. There are things in our careers that say, oh, I'm making a difference here. And Gino, having Gino here, Sandia here, the people that have made a difference in my life, and they're coming to kind of share their story with you, it makes a difference. And I appreciate Gino, you jumping on here and visiting with us. Let me introduce Gino. He is an investor, business owner, author, and entrepreneur. He has grown his real estate portfolio to over 1,600 multifamily units. He is co-founder of the Jake and Gino Multifamily Real Estate Education Company that now offers coaching and training in real estate. And it's founded upon their proprietary framework of buy right, manage right, and finance right. That's where I come in. Mm-hmm. He is the best-selling author of 2 books, Wheelbarrow Profits and Family, Food and the Friars, and he graduated from IPC, which is the Institute for Professional Excellence in Coaching, where he earned his designation as a certified professional coach. He resides with his 6 children and his wife, Julia, what a great name, and they are in St. Augustine, Florida. So I am so thankful that you said yes, Gino, and that you are taking time to visit with our clients here. And I thank you so much.
Thanks, Julie, for having me on. And Julia, she's a great woman, 6 kids, homeschooled. And, this is why we're all on. This is why I guess a lot of us are on. For myself, it's about my family and about creating freedom, right, Julie? That's what multifamily should be all about. It should be all about creating a business. And at Jake and Gino, we create multifamily entrepreneurs. That's what we want ultimately from this. And there's a couple of things that you said that I'd like to highlight. 6,000 loans, big shout out to you and your company. That is truly staggering, a staggering number. And, when you say, Julie, that you're the biggest partner, you are in the deals. You make up 80% of the money that comes into a transaction, whether 70, 80, whatever that looks like. So that's a really big testament to what you all do. And the other thing is 80% of the loans are bridge debt. That's getting to be a little scary. And we're looking at deals right now where rents are $600-$700 and they should be $1,100. When rents go up 20% a year in our market in Knoxville, it takes everybody by surprise, but it shouldn't, because we've been talking about inflation for the last 20 years and it's been there, but in the way they measure it with no food and energy, and now all of a sudden it hit. And I think, how many of you out there thought we were at a market high 3 years ago? I thought the market was at a high 3 years ago. How many people thought 2 years ago? How many people last year? Well, it's the same thing. We all probably think the market's at a high this year as well. And you never know. You know, when you know, Julie, when the market's at a high, when you look back and you go, oh, that was the market high. And, the reason why I say that is everyone's always asking me, in Jake and Gino community, when should I get into multifamily? Is this the right time? And it's never the right time unless you're really prepared to know when it's the right time. Why? I got into multifamily back in 2011 with Jake. I was in New York. Jake moved to Knoxville, Tennessee. I owned a restaurant, believe it or not, and I was looking into multifamily, and it looked great. I love the numbers, but back in 2011 and 2012, it was a different time. GDP was 1%. There was no syndication. There was no money. There was deals dying on LoopNet. There was rents that were $300, $350 for one bedroom. So it was a really different era. I mean, there's no money, but there's deals. And as the market started to shift, things started to change, and we're here now. And for us, the most important thing when you talk about buy right, manage right, and finance right, I always hear students and people saying, well, I want a deal, looking for deals. I think before we look for deals, let's look for the market that we're trying to invest in. Let's understand that market, and then let's understand what our criteria is, what our values are. Because I see a lot of people coming into the space and just wanting to look for deals. Well, what kind of deals are you looking for? Are you looking to syndicate? Are you looking to use creative financing? Are you looking to buy deals by yourself with a partner or two? And then ultimately, the biggest question we should all be asking ourselves is, what is our exit strategy? And that's one of the biggest mistakes I made, Julie, when I first started out. I thought I was going to be a buy and holder forever. And I've held most of our deals. We own about 1,400 units right now, me, Jake, and my partner, Mike. It's just the three of us. We syndicated 3 deals. We've sold 2 deals off on syndication, and we have 1 deal left that's syndicated. And, I read the book Small Giants. I think everyone should read the book. It was an amazing book for me. It was written by Bo Burlingham, and I'm going to actually interview him tomorrow. And for us, we got really clear on our core values and what our mission statement was. We didn't want to have 5,000 units or 6,000 units. We wanted to have a contingent of a couple thousand units. We're vertically integrated, which for us, we manage our own properties. So we can't really scale up to the size of what syndicators do, because we have to hire our own property managers, have to hire our own maintenance techs. So for us, owning those units and what we call profit per door is our key metric, is what we're looking for. So before you go out there and start your own business, because really you're going to become an entrepreneur, think about what your buy right criteria is, think about what your exit strategy is, and ultimately what your core values are. And as you start partnering up with other people, make sure that they align. Because if you're going to want to align with someone who's Jake and Gino, but that person wants to scale to 5,000 units, and the other person saying, I want 200 or 300, it's not going to be a good fit. So just wanted to start out with those few key tips. And like I said, 6,000 loans, that's super impressive. Congratulations.
Thank you. Hard work. Only 8 of us. We close $1.5 billion a year. So it's a lot, right?
Yeah.
So, before we get into this further, everybody should give Gino the view. Okay. So let's give him all of our attention, because everybody's doing things in the background. If you go up to the right-hand side of your screen, there is a view. It'll say speaker view. If you guys would check on, just click on that, and it'll bring the speaker. And now I'm probably there because I'm speaking. But
yes.
This is really helpful so that we can give all of our attention. Okay. Also, before we go any further, if you guys need to leave early, life happens, right? If you need to leave, I want to make sure that you know how to take the chat with you. Again, everybody should be putting in their contact information in the chat, but pull up the chat, open it up. There's 3 little dots over on the right-hand side. Open that up, press on it, and it says save chat. Now you can do that right before you leave, right? You don't have to keep saving it, okay? So let's go from there. So, man, oh man, Gino, you had a lot to say in that just small amount of time, and I want to just kind of unpack it. So you're a restaurant owner. Now, how do you go from a restaurant owner to multifamily? Were you doing single family at the time? Kind of talk to me about that.
I had an entrepreneurial parents. So my mom actually owned the restaurant. We owned the restaurant, and she owned the building. So it was 3 apartment units upstairs. And, one night, I'm sitting out in the restaurant. I heard somebody talking about snow. It's back in 2008, and it's snowing out there. It's a Friday night, and I'm saying to myself, I'm out again. I'm not making any money this week. Throwing salt on the driveway. It's freezing. I don't have any gloves. I remember it like yesterday. And I look up, and in one of the windows, in the bathroom window, I see the light on, and it really dawns on me at that point. I'm like, my mom is getting paid right now. She's a landlord. That person's paying the rent and I'm not getting paid. And that's when the light bulb went on to me. I said, I need to get into some type of real estate. And I don't want to call it passive because nothing is passive in life because you have to manage it. Either you're managing it or you're managing the manager. But I said to myself, I want to build wealth. And I had a W-2 job. I was felt like I was on a hamster wheel, to be honest with you, every week, doing the same things over and over again and expecting different results. And for me, ultimately, I just decided to go out and find a mentor. I actually started Rich Dad, Poor Dad coaching program. Then I did another one after that in 2009, 2010. And that was a preparation. I was fortunate that I did that. So when I did meet Jake in 2011 and he moves down, I actually knew how to underwrite deals. I knew how to do property tours. I knew how to really analyze these properties. And for me, that was the big shift for me. I already had the experience. I couldn't do single family homes. I already had a job. So I didn't want to fix and flip. I didn't want to do any of that. I wanted something where I could build equity. And I always knew that transactions pay the bills, but equity, makes you rich. I knew that intuitively when I was sitting out in that driveway, throwing that salt. And that was that pivotal moment for me. And I think the second pivotal moment for me was when I read that book from T. Harv Eker called Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. That one really fired me up because, I read it and I want to punch T. Harv in the face. And we interviewed him about 2 years ago. And, at first I'm like, he doesn't know who I am. But in the book, he talks about responsibility. Your fruits are your roots. And I'm the one out there at, 10 o'clock at night on Friday throwing salt. Why am I doing that? That's my fruits. Those are my roots. So when I ultimately understood that the responsibility bore with me, and I decided to say, hey, I need to invest in my education. At the time, I thought it was an expense. When I look back at it, everything I've done with education is an investment. And I started going to those coaching programs, started preparing myself. Ultimately, fortune favors the bold. I took those actions. I met Jake. I started investing with him out of market. And I guess, as they say, the rest is history.
Well, so I want to kind of go back a little bit. So here you are, you're working your W-2, you own the restaurant. You've got how many kids at the time? You got 4 or 5 kids.
Yes.
And your wife is at home and
Yes.
you're the main person. And I think that this is a commonplace for a lot of people.
Yes.
How do I take my money and put it into these investments? And I got to hold those investments for some time. How do I keep putting food in my children's mouth if I keep taking all of the money that I'm making in my W-2 to do that? So I'm curious. That's a big step. That's a big commitment. That is your wife also saying, how fast does this work? How do you settle that concern? Because I know there are people here that feel this way. Hey, maybe I'll just invest passively. And that's fine. We need passive investors. But there's a whole lot of people here that are wanting to be GPs, but they don't have money. They don't have the education yet. So how did you sell your wife on this is going to work? We're going to make this work. How do you do that?
That's a tough question to answer. I mean, at the time, we didn't have the best communication. I mean, we have 4 kids. I'm actually homeschooling before I go to work at the restaurant. Then at the restaurant at lunchtime, I'm actually working. I'm doing podcasts. I'm underwriting deals. And then at dinner time on the line, then I go home at night. Julie and I, we started a podcast called the Multifamily Zone podcast because ultimately we started it 2 years ago. We wanted to understand what really happened. And, we were able to interview Dr. Gary Chapman. I think you guys should go listen to that podcast. And it's really about the 5 love languages. If you've never heard about it, it's just a way to communicate with your spouse. And I think my wife intuitively, we put our trust and faith in God. And she basically said, you know what, if this is what you want to do, if you're really that miserable at the restaurant, I'll have faith in you that it'll work. But it works both ways, Julie. So she gave me all the faith and all the trust, but I had to work as hard as possible. And she saw that I put in the effort. She saw that I was doing 70-hour work weeks. She saw that I was working on the weekends. She saw that I was doing all that effort. And it works both ways. And for me, I couldn't let her down. And it was just baby steps. I mean, you don't have to go into it full time. You don't have to burn the bridges. For us, we bought our first deal in 2013. 2016, I left the restaurant. So you can see there's a 5-year window. Everyone thinks about it's got to be glamorous. You got to burn the bridges. You got to go full time. You can do it incrementally. You can do it with a plan. Proper planning prevents poor performance. And it's okay to look out 5 years and say, I'm going to start today. You have to, with your party, you have to include your significant other. And I've been fortunate now because, like I said, now my whole family is totally intertwined in the education, which is what I wanted. They come to our events. My wife has written a cookbook. A children's book. So she's in that. She's doing the education and the podcast. So it's really a family decision. And she just had faith in me. And ultimately, if you're going to do that, you need to put out, you cannot make excuses that you're tired, that you're sick. For me, it was constantly going back to Knoxville, underwriting deals. And what money I did have, I diverted it. I blew up my 401k, had that money go there. And it was really, I had to really take that education seriously. I had to take that mentorship seriously. I had to show her that I knew what I was doing before, I go squander. And I was surrounded by people that thought I was crazy. I mean, how many out there have family members that say, hey, you're crazy? My mom did not know that I invested with my partner, Jake, until I had 200 units, because she had seen another real estate venture that we had messed up back in '05. And that never left her mind. And for me, it was a learning lesson. And I'm doing these deals. And that day that I go to my mom, sit down with her in the parking lot, I say, Mom, I'm going to be leaving the restaurant in about 6 months. And she looked at me. She had no idea. I said, I've got about 200 units now. I'm going to, work for the next 6 months to a year. But I just didn't tell her, because what was that negative? You have 6 mouths to feed. How are you going to do it? It's too risky. And now that I look back, I would have had that restaurant in New York with COVID. I would have had one restaurant, would have been completely shut down. So it's just one of those things that whatever we do in life, there's just a risk, whether you're working corporate, whether you're working W-2, whether you're an entrepreneur, there's risk in anything in life. I just ultimately knew that wasn't my sole purpose. My sole purpose was ultimately becoming financially free through this vehicle of multifamily, and then finding this company, Jake and Gino, with the education and starting that, writing books and teaching kids about financial intelligence. That's what ultimately what led me to do what I'm doing right now. But it was hard work in the beginning, and to have that trust and that faith amongst my wife, really, it put me at ease. All I knew that I had to do, all that I had to do is just put that hard work in. And then if I knew that put that hard work in, sooner or later, the harder you work, the luckier you get. That's what ultimately happens. And the luckier you get, the harder you work. And it was just constantly putting that work.
Yeah, I mean, it is the saying where I'll do anything that somebody else wouldn't do, right? And you just stay at it, and it does pay off. But it's a grind, right? I mean, it's probably working at a restaurant. I almost married a restaurant owner. Man, oh man, it is a tough life. And now that was your family's restaurant? Is that your?
Yeah, it's my family's. And actually, the reason why I didn't like the restaurant, it didn't align ultimately when I figured out with my core values, and the core values of being able to have the freedom. I wanted to be able to be off on the weekends. I didn't want to work during the holidays. And one thing the restaurant did teach me was hard work. And then, you need to work hard in any endeavor. I mean, ultimately you need to work smart as well, but we're taught this in this, in this era, all you need to do is work smart. No, you need to work hard and put in the hours. And that's what the restaurant taught me. But ultimately it was just hard because I felt like I was stuck. It felt like it was just the same day, Groundhog Day. And I just painted a picture in my mind that I didn't want to fail. And I just told myself that I'm not going to fail. And if I fail, I'm going to let all these people down. So, and the other thing I guess that I always put in my mind was that I wanted to be a role model to my children. So I didn't want my children to see myself working hard, coming home from work, being stressed out, hating work, and then them equating work with, oh my gosh, dad doesn't like work. Hard work doesn't pay off. I didn't want to be the bearer of that. And then ultimately, I'm so thankful for what I do because my kids see me now. They're at my events. They meet all of our students. They see how excited I am about work. And to them, work is totally different than what it was 10 years ago. So those are the pictures that I had in my mind. And I just kept focusing on those pictures.
Wow, that is so wise. I just love that part of including your children. I tried to get my kids. It's only going to be 20 minutes. We're going to run down there. We're going to fix the light bulb. And 3 hours later, they're stuck sitting in the car. They do not want to be owners of properties.
And that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. Listen, my 22-year-old, she's a missionary. She's she's in Tiger, Georgia right now. So she's doing missionary work. She loves it. But the one thing that she understood is you need to learn how to sell. So it's always an entrepreneurial venture. She's got to raise capital to become a missionary. You need to put skin in the game. So it's one of those things where you don't push them. You let them find their sole purpose. You let them find what brings passion and joy to their life. And I think ultimately, if we do that as parents, we'll be okay. I think that's what we are as parents. Yes.
I think I love that. I mean, just really true passion brings that out. Watching you be passionate is amazing. Your kids really do pick up. Now, let's talk about Jake for a little while. How Do you get to know Jake? Was he in a program with you? How did you know that you wanted to do business with him? How did you know that you were going to work out? Did you sit down and crunch numbers? Did you talk about, well, what is your vision? What is your mission? I'm curious because a lot of people go to, let's say your
Mm-hmm.
conference, and they say, you look good. I want to be your partner. And there's more to it than this. And I want to make it really clear. And I say this almost weekly. Your partnerships can make it or break you,
Mm-hmm.
right? This is something you have to take your time. So you say 2008, 2011. Tell me a little bit how you and Jake, because he's very different from you.
He can be different. We're both visionaries and integrators at the same time. He's a little bit more of a D than I am. Our personalities are a little bit different, but he was a pharmaceutical rep back in 2008. He was younger, maybe late 20s, and he was taking food out of our restaurant, catering to doctors' offices. He was really my brother's friend. And when he heard about the whole real estate bug, I'm like, dude, when you move down to Knoxville, let's start looking at deals. So he didn't know what he was doing. He's not on the show, and I can tell you, I taught him everything he knows and then some. But
we got it recorded, Jake.
The reality is, there is not anyone harder at work than him. He is one of the hardest workers that I know. And even more than that, he is prepared. He's got his cardstock paper every day. He plans out his week on Sunday. He does 2 hours of planning for his entire week. So he knows exactly where he is all the time. I've never heard him call me up and say, you know what? Can't make the call tonight. I just tired. There's no excuses. We have set it. We have expectations set. Our core values truly align. We're both men of integrity. We're both men that want to have a family. We're both strong men. We both believe in being leaders. We both believe in long-termism. We're not the shiny object syndrome guys, and we're not the get-there-itis people. And that's very, very difficult nowadays. I call myself a farmer. My dad was a farmer from Italy. He planted the seed. He had to water the seed. He had to take care of the crops, and ultimately, hopefully, have a harvest. And that's what Jake and I ultimately said. We're going to do this long term. We may not make money year one. We may not make money year two. Remember, 2011 it took us 2.5 years to find that first deal and actually close on it. Then 3 months after that, we close on our second deal. So for us, partnership really comes down to having the similar core values and having the same kind of goals. We're both around the same age. I'm about 10 years older than him, but I am not out there fixing and flipping these multifamilies and moving on to the next one. We both want to hold these for the long term. We love the cost segregation on these deals. We love having a small, giant company, with whether it's Jake and Gino, whether it's our property management company, whether it's our syndication company, whether it's our investment company, our deals. So understanding what your individual goals are, hopefully they align. We had an opportunity to buy an RV park about a year ago, and we said to ourselves, not really. I mean, it was a great deal, but it just wasn't part of our plan. It would deviate us from multifamily. And we're trying to build the Chick-fil-A of apartments in property management. RVs are a little different than multifamily. So we both decided, you know what, not a good thing. Now, if you have one partner that wants to do it and one partner that doesn't, it's not going to be a good alignment, a good fit. So if you're starting out in partnership, you can just start on your first deal and say, hey, let's try our first deal. We have an operating agreement, see how it goes, and then take it from there. But I think a partnership, like I said, I can't remember once him calling up and him saying, I'm tired. I'm not making, that call. And I can say the same thing to him. I've never made that excuse. So to hold each other accountable is really, really, truly important in partnerships. And I look at it this way. He's got 3 kids. I have 6. Every action and everything I do, I'm feeding his family, and vice versa. He's feeding my family. So when you put it in that perspective, I'm not letting him down. There's no way I'm going to let him or his family down. And I can almost with certainty say that he feels the same way about, the relationship with me.
A lot of deals right now people are jumping on a deal as a capital raiser. So they bring their investors to that deal and they say, oh, I don't like those partners. But your investors are stuck with that partnership. Yes. Now you go to the next deal, and you and your partner, you go back to the well and say, hey, come invest with me over here. And what I love about what you guys have done is that you figured out how you do it together. Your partnership is strong. It has the values. You understand how each of you work. You're committed to that. What I don't like to see today in this environment is people are jumping around, and the person that gets hurt is the investors.
Yes.
So my question to you is, you've made this great with Jake, right? I mean, it works. but knowing, and you spoke about this in your education seminar, like what are the challenges and how do you get through those? You know,
Mm-hmm.
how can you foresee them? I mean, what is your recommendation? How do you sift through this? You know, you got to you have to have expectations that things will go wrong. How do you work those out? Give me some thoughts on that.
So, Julie, let me go back to my restaurant days. I had one restaurant for over 20 years. And the reason why I only had one restaurant for 20 years was I didn't have any core values. We didn't have a mission statement. And that sounds pretty crazy, but how many of you out there have employees or are working in a place and you're blaming your employees for, oh, my employees are terrible? It was never my fault. It was always my employee's fault. It was always the business fault. And that's because we didn't have core values. And when Jake and I at about 500 units decided to set up our core values and our mission statement, people first, unwavering ethics, extreme ownership, make it happen, growth mindset. We create communities that empower people to become the best version of themselves. We are working towards that vision, and we want our team to work towards that vision. And I didn't have that at the restaurant. I had one for 20 something years, and to have 1,500 units in 5 years, it's not a mistake. It's not luck. It's really investing in yourself and scaling up a company and understanding that multifamily is an entrepreneurial venture. The hardest thing for an entrepreneur to do is to buy your first deal and then your second deal. And then all of a sudden, it's like, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And it's really empowering. You want to do everything. But when you have 100 units, you can't do everything. It's not possible. And it's hard to shed that former identity. The hardest thing for me to do is to shed the identity of being a pizza guy. I was a pizza guy for over 40 years. My name is Gino Barbaro. I'm a dramatic tenor. I'm Italian through and through. I'm in the pizza business. That's what I do. And then all of a sudden, I'm out there asking people for money in multifamily. Like, who the hell is this guy? Right. And that was really hard. And then I got on with Jake and we started doing it. And it was just one deal at a time, one deal at a time. And that vision, understanding it's long term. We had Dr. Peter Lindemann on the podcast. And what he said is when you invest in multifamily, you invest in decades. You're going to have 2 good years, 2 crappy years, and 6 okay. And if you're looking at a deal right now, understanding this part of the cycle, we're buying newer assets. We're buying assets that are a little bit newer because the older assets, these C properties, cap rates are compressed. And the problem with them is they have a lot of capex. The budgets are terrible. Cast iron plumbing. You've got roofs, all this. Now, if you can buy it at the right price, but we bought a 25 unit about 3 months ago. Blended rate was 63 a door. We're going to put in 12,000 in capex. It's going to be 75 a door. It's probably going to price for 100 a door. It's an old asset, but we bought it right. Most of our other deals we're looking at right now are newer assets. That's what we're looking for. We're looking for median incomes in the 50s, at least. That's what we're looking for. We love 2-bedroom townhomes. We love washer dryers. We love brick. We love those kinds of assets in the Knoxville market or within 3 hours of Knoxville. So getting clear on that and not wavering from that. And the thing, Julie, is really hard is that's constantly changing because it's the 3 pillars of real estate. It's market cycle, it's debt, and it's exit strategy. So understanding what our exit strategy is, we want to refine roll these deals. We refined over $20 million out of these deals, and we didn't go out and buy Lambos. We put money back into every deal. That's what we kept doing. And we're really crystal clear on our plan. And were there problems? Absolutely. You always come up into different problems, whether you're hiring other individuals on the team, whether somebody's stealing from you, whether residents are dying in your units. There's always problems, whether there's fires. But that's why I love partnerships. I had a partnership with my brother in the restaurant, and I've got a partnership with Jake. And when something happens, he can get on the phone and he can talk to me and I can talk to him. It's the same thing. So, you work through those things because ultimately you when you talk about long-termism, you're not trying to make a decision based on what's going to happen this quarter or next quarter. You're making a decision based on what's going to happen for your kids and your grandkids. So if something happens today, you can't find a deal today, there will be deals. Deals are coming. They're going to come back because people buying on bridge debt, when interest rates go up, guess what? They're going to get stuck. They're going to become the motivated sellers. Or when interest burns off and principal clicks back on, what's going to happen? There's going to be deals out there. So we just need to be really, really patient right now. If you can't find deals, go out and find investors. Start building your investor database. Start creating substantive relationships. Start a podcast. Start writing blogs. Start doing other things other than just deal sourcing, because that's not the only part of the business. There's another part of the business, which is actually going out there, finding investors and creating relationships. Find out what brokers are in the market. Find out what, whether it's real estate brokers, mortgage brokers, property managers, go out there and learn your market implicitly.
Wow. I'm telling you, you hit on so many things right there. Can you slow it down for the new people? Okay.
Sure.
there's going to be some changes coming up, people. You're not going to get 1,000 units by Tuesday. I know that's big news for you, but you're not going to.
I don't think you want to either. That's
You
the
don't
thing.
want to,
I don't
right?
think you even want to, because it's learning by doing. I mean, our first property was a 25 unit property. Our next property was a 36 unit property. And then our next one, 6 months after that, was 136. So that's the natural progression. You know, you're starting smaller and you're learning and you're pivoting. You know, think big and start small. A duplex, a 4 unit, that's great. You're in the game. You're learning your mistakes. You're learning how to property manage. You're learning how to manage people. And then you start scaling up from there. And that's how it was for us. The first 3 or 4 deals, it was pretty interesting. Jake had never done property management. He decided to manage his very first property. And ever since then, we've managed them all. But going from a weekly renter to monthly renters on that first deal, it was a real big challenge. And if that was 100 units on the first deal, guess what? We would have made a lot more mistakes. I don't know if we would have had enough money to run a 100-unit property. So in this part of the market, Julie, everyone's out there. They're all wanting to say they want to close 100, 200, 300, 400-unit deals. We've closed a 25-unit in December. We're going to be closing a 21-unit this week. We've got a 40-unit under contract. We've got an 18-unit under contract, and we just put a 12-unit under contract. So the small deals, we're not syndicating. We're doing our own deals. Those small deals will make you wealthy, super wealthy. That's our strategy. So there's deals out there right now. You just need to know what your criteria is, and you need to continue to be out there, going to these events. I know Joe Fairless has got an event in this week, actually. Go out to that event. Go meet people who are doing deals out there. There's so many different events and so many meetups that we need to be going to. You can't find deals, go to these meetups and you'll meet people who are doing these deals.
Fantastic. Exactly. All right. So you chose Tennessee, right? Knoxville?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Tell me what the direction was when you first decided to do that. Why did you choose that market? Do you only stay in that market? There's some value to getting deep into that market. I want to know what you've, the advantages that you have found to be in that, well seated in that market. Because I'm sure, some of our friends on the call today, they may think, I want to go to 4 different markets.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us the advantages of that.
So in 2011, I'm a New Yorker. I can say embarrassingly, I really didn't know where Knoxville, Tennessee was. New Yorkers don't know anything out of the tri-state area. We're just, back then we were ignorant. So I said, you're moving to Knoxville? I said, sure. Let me look at LoopNet. I'm looking at $30,000 a door, $300 in rents. That makes sense. It's the 1% rule even back then. So we just started. Jake was boots on the ground. I had been investing in Rochester, New York. I said, let me go out of my market and see if I can do this third-party management thing. And I bought a couple duplexes up there. I didn't like the market because it was just a Section 8 market. I bought a duplex for $60,000. 7 years later, I sold it for $60,000. It was a really linear market. Taxes were not what I wanted. It didn't align with my core values. I wanted property rights and all that. So I wanted to leave New York. So I go to Knoxville, and fortunate, one of the luckiest things that ever happened. It was a great market. It was underappreciated. Nashville is starting to grow. And then the last couple of years, as Nashville money is starting to creep over into Knoxville, into the east part. And up until about a year ago, Knoxville was a bargain for rents. There were, rents for a 2-bedroom were $700. Now all of a sudden they're $1,000. They've just shot up because they see that there's a ton of value. Now between the rents and mortgages, it's more or less close. So I don't know if the value gap is there as much, but I think there's still a lot more bargain in Knoxville than there is in Nashville, let's say. And if you go more towards the east part of the state, I think there's even more of a value. I think ultimately for us, Tennessee is a market was really weird because years ago, people who lived in California would move to Boise, Idaho, Salt Lake City. They would move to Phoenix, Tahoe. Now they're moving to Tennessee.
Yeah.
When did you ever hear of a Californian moving to Tennessee? I mean, like the last 3 years, it's amazing how many are moving out there, and they're moving to Florida as well. So I think our population growth is tremendous. I think the job growth is great. I mean, the Knoxville is just blowing up. Smith and Wesson just moved down, and there's thousands of jobs moving down. And I think multifamily comes down to jobs. That's what it ultimately comes down to: jobs, population growth, and there's good quality paying jobs. That's where it was 20 or 30 years ago. The jobs in the Southeast weren't great. You're getting a lot of quality jobs. You're getting more tech jobs moving down. So for us, the reason why we chose Knoxville, and just to stay within a 3-hour radius, we are vertically integrated. So we want to manage our own properties. So we're looking at properties. We own a property in Lexington, Kentucky, which is about, I think, 2 or 3 hours away. We have that. So we want to stay that close. And there's so many markets that we can look at. You have the Lexington market. We have parts of North Carolina. I would love to find something in Huntsville, Alabama. I mean, Huntsville is one of those markets that's been on fire forever, and it's going to continue to be on fire because it's got so many white collar jobs. So within 3 hours, we're looking at it. We like the Southeast Conference. We did a podcast with a gentleman named Ken Grombach. He's a demographer. And he's basically saying that by the year 2030, Florida is going to have 30 million residents. And just the Southeast is going to, with demographics, with I think every day, 10,000 people in the US turn 65. So as people age, they go to warmer climates. They go down there and they're all moving to the Southeast, whether it's Phoenix or, you get that part of the West, or you're going to the Southeast. That's what's happening. People are just moving for quality of life. They're moving for, it's just cheaper to live down there and it's just warmer. The climate's warmer down there.
Makes sense. Makes sense. All right. We've got a great foundation of who you are, what you do, why you do what you do. Tell us about your education program, because, there's a lot of people that have jumped into this through COVID, gotten online, listened to podcasts, gone to some conferences. But I want you to talk about what makes your program special, because I think it's pretty special. There are a lot of education programs out there, and I support many of them because of certain things about them, right? Tell us about your program. If somebody were looking for education, why would they go to yours?
I think first I'd like to say is most of the education companies out there, I know a lot of them. I think they're great people. I think they're doing it for the right reasons. I'm going to be honest with you. If I had not done the education, I probably would have been even wealthier with multifamily. I would probably have 2,000 units and then some. But I just focused my efforts on the education because I loved it. It became my sole purpose, and I've gotten so much back from it. For us, it's about the community. It really comes down to the community. Our students have closed over 35,000 units. There's probably over $2 billion in transactions. And it's taken a while. We started 5 years ago, but it's the snowball effect, and it's taken time. And what I've created, one of the things that I did wrong, Julie, when I was in the restaurant, I never went the way of these weekend events. I always made the excuse. Like I said, T. Harv Eker, I can't go. I'm working this weekend. I could have taken the weekend off and gone to a boot camp or gone to a seminar. I didn't. And I saw that was one of the things that really held me back. So when we created the education, I wanted to have these on-site boot camps for students to come. We call them money mixers, and we call them the buy right boot camp, the manage right. So they're 2-day events just for students that get together. We have 6 of them a year. And that's where the magic happens because, like you said, it's all about networking. Some students may be boots on the ground. Some students may be KPs. Some students may be, they want to invest passively. Some are actually managing deals. So you get all these students together, and all of a sudden they start networking. They start going out and having a great time. And that's I think, one of the biggest benefits of any education. And, when you do go out and you invest in that education, you are more likely to take action. I can sit home, watch YouTube videos, go on Bigger Pockets. I love all those events. I actually do them all. But at the same time, do I have any skin in the game? It's almost like trying to invest in a deal. Theoretically, as an LP, if you're not putting any money in the deal, does that really count? Do you really have anything, going for it? When you put that money down on a mentorship, and listen, I've spent over $500,000 in the last 5 or 6 years with mentors, with coaching, with scaling up, with books. I mean, I probably bought 500 books in the last 3 or 4 years because with the podcast, every week I have a different guest. So I'm buying books and constantly reading about books. For me, it's just surrounding myself with like-minded people. I want to be the Jim Rome. I want to have 5 people. I think that proximity is so powerful. And for me, the last 2 years, I've been fortunate. I got through COVID because of Jake and Gino, because we still had the events. So I was able to go out and talk and just meet new people. And for me, it's invigorating. A lot of the students that we have are so intelligent and they're so high level that I'm learning from them. And as an educator, no one's an expert in any field, because once you become an expert, you stop learning. So my whole mantra was learn, do, and teach. And you start learning something, you do it, and then ultimately you teach it, and you become such a better investor. That's what has led us to become so successful in investing, is actually learning from our students and learning from the platform as well. And I just think that the community has been terrific for me. And I think it's been terrific for a lot of people. I just said, I'm looking for an outlet. I'm looking for a place to learn, but I'm also looking for a place to have some lifelong relationships. And I think that's what we've created.
I do want to make a point that it's important that it's a good fit. An education program needs to be a good fit. There are education programs that are, a lot of excitement, a lot of high net worth individuals. It attracts a lot of people. If that's the kind of person you are, go to those.
Yes.
If you're looking for salt of the earth people that really want to help you, you would look at, Jake and Gino does a great program, I felt, even though I'm not a student, but I felt loved. I felt supported of what I do going to their program, just
Mm-hmm.
their conference. So you don't have to be part of their education program to go to the conference. You
Nope.
can meet people there. And
Mm-hmm.
I made some amazing relationships at all of these conferences, but many of them came from spending time with you guys and your community. So, hats off to you. You attract really salt of the earth, good people, and that's people want to follow good people, right? Good
Mm-hmm.
people attract good people. So
Mm-hmm.
it speaks volumes for you. What we're going to wrap it up here shortly, but I do have a question. What is your word of wisdom for somebody wanting to get into this, trying to make decisions? Where do I go? How do I get into this? Serini just decided, I want to do this. He's new today. He's new with us. He's been kind of tackling where he wants to do, how to do it, educating himself. What's your words of wisdom for him and our attendees here to taking action, to keeping a good mindset? What is for you? What words
Hmm.
of wisdom have really, you would want to share with
I
us?
could spend like an hour talking about this, but for real quickly, for me, my whole life changed when I went to life coaching, and I did life
Yeah.
coaching for personal development. And I really figured out what my why was. And I figured out, my why was that Small Giants book, creating these small little companies where I wanted to control them and I wanted to have impact. And when I realized that, I'm like, okay, this is what I want Jake and Gino for. This is what I want my investment company for. So understanding what your why is, understanding what drives you, you have to understand that implicitly. And I think the other thing is in multifamily, where do you derive your value? Where can you bring value to somebody else? If you can understand that you can bring value to somebody else by raising capital or by being boots on the ground or by being a bird dog or whatever that looks like, focus on that. And unfortunately for me, I should say, I don't have very many skill sets. The only skill set that I really could bring to the table was not quitting. That book, The War of Art by
Yeah.
Stephen Pressfield, we actually interviewed him a couple times. It's an amazing book. You should all read it. We all come up with that word resistance, and we have that resistance and we feel it. And those of us that can overcome that, we all have overcome with fear. Fear is going to take us, but fear paralyzes us. I just had to get angry. And, getting angry, ultimately, I figured it out. But you can't stay angry because that's a negative emotion. Understanding that. And then I was fortunate with two people in my life. Like I said, Julia, my wife, who really promoted me and who really held me in high regard. She still does to this day. She thinks I'm an awesome person. Don't know how or why. But also I had Jake, and Jake was there. So when I had a problem, I'd go to him. That was our mastermind. Really, that's what really helped me through. And then ultimately, my why, my sole purpose, really, and you all have to focus on this and what my values. If you can figure out what your core values are, write them down, and every time you're going to take an action, if it doesn't align with your core values, you're going to feel there's something wrong with it. And if it doesn't align with it, make those values, those decisions based on those values and say no to it. Real quick story. Got into a partnership down here about 3 years ago. It was with a couple of gentlemen down here, and it didn't work out. And the reason why it didn't work out, business plan is great. Actually, the homes that we built was a vacation rental home business. We had built two homes. We'd be up 200 grand of these homes. It's just the alignment of values with the other people didn't work. And I felt it in my core at the time. And my 18-year-old daughter was like, Dad, you shouldn't go into business with these guys because it's not the right fit. I should have listened to her and I should have listened to my gut, but I really didn't have my core values fleshed out. I didn't have that on paper. I didn't think about that decision based on what my values were. And every time you go against what your values are, even if you do have success, you're going to feel incongruent because you're not in alignment with your core values.
Man, oh man, I think that a lot of us are not in touch with those core values.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that would be like a whole great hour to kind of have everybody do like a seminar here, have somebody speak on how do you
Mm-hmm.
figure out those core values? Because I think we have our parents saying, oh, it's our family, it's our children, it's our work. Is
Mm-hmm.
that really your core value?
Mm-hmm.
What is it that drives you? I can
Mm-hmm.
tell you that I am in the right place for me. It took me a long time to get here, but I know my days are filled with joy because of what I do.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where you want to get, because that brings joy to others. It allows you to thrive, and trying to figure out those core values can be challenging, especially if you're not exposed to a lot of this, right? Yeah.
You got to work on yourself, and that's the hard part.
Yeah.
There's one other book that I like to recommend. It's called The Gap and the Gain. It's by Benjamin Hardy and Dan Sullivan. And The Gap and the Gain is great. And I lived in the gap a lot, always comparing myself to others, always worrying about the future. Instead of living in the gain and saying, I've got 1,000 units, I've built an amazing platform here, whatever that may be. We should always measure our goals by looking back and saying what we've accomplished. That's part of the success thing. When we're successful, we feel that success. We're climbing that mountain and looking up towards the mountain. Just take a look back and see where you've come from. Wherever you are in life, I'm sure that you've progressed to what you were 6 months ago. And that book was amazing to me. I'm like, wow, it took me so many years to figure that out because I'm always on to the next deal. We've got the 12 unit sign, on to the next, on to the next, on to the next. And just stop and take a look around and say, you know what? We're really fortunate where we live. We have first world problems for the most part, most of us on here. And if we can just look back and measure our goals from where we were, because goal is just a result. Fall in love with that system, fall in love with that process that you need to put into place, fall in love with working in multifamily and figuring out what you really like to do and what you excel at and where you can be valuable to a team member.
Oh, it's just so beautiful. Your words are tremendous. They're thoughtful. I have just loved hearing what you have to say. I'd love to open it up. If anybody has any questions before you go, and you are welcome to stay with us. I feel a little guilty.
Sure. No, not at all.
It's my Catholic guilt that I have, that I carry with me, that, hey, if you need to go, then go. But one thing I do want to make sure that we know that your next conference is going to be in Orlando.
Yes.
It's November 5th and 6th. Okay. Where do we sign up for that? And how do we get a hold of you? Now, you don't want to take our calls. I understand that. Let's not bother everybody. Oh, what's your favorite color? We're not doing that. But, Josh is in the house. Josh works, right? Josh works with Gino. And Josh is going to set us up with some of that information. And by the way, Josh, because you know Gino so well, there were some books that Gino said that were really important for our development. And I think if you probably know all those books because you sit next to Gino or you guys talk a lot. But if you could put those into the chat, I know there was The Gap and the Gain, Secrets of a Millionaire Mind.
Yes.
There was something about
Small Giants.
Small Giants.
Yeah, it's a great book.
Okay. And there is a podcast that you recommended, yours, of course. So
yes, I would say the Multifamily Zone podcast. That's with me and my wife. It's about spousal communication. It's about working with your spouse. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where we need to communicate with our spouse, and maybe we stay in our own lanes. So it's a good fun podcast. I enjoy it.
You did talk about another podcast about the love languages.
Oh yes, it is on the Multifamily Zone. It's with Dr. Gary Chapman. Yeah, the 5 love. Dr. Chapman has a bunch of books. He has 5 languages of appreciation. That's a great one for organizations, for entities. Basically, how you are actually receive that kind of, I don't want to say love, but that kind of language with other people in your office. Basically, sometimes, for example, I'm talking to you, I may say sorry to you, but you receive it in a different way. The golden rule is treat others as you want to be treated. I think the platinum rule is treat others as they would want to be treated. So I think in that, and that's what it is with the 5 love languages. How does that person receive, do they want quality time? Do they want affirmations? Whatever it is, the book is awesome. I mean, it was really instrumental for me to understand that, maybe my wife doesn't want gifts. She just wants to spend some quality time. And I'm going, man, all those gifts I got all those years, why'd I spend all that money when I could just hang out with her a little bit on the couch and would have saved myself thousands of bucks? But it is what it is.
I'm sure she liked the gifts. I'm just talking for her about it. Is there anybody, I'm going to jump over to our view. Is there anybody who has a burning, Jeff has a question.
Yeah, just unmute.
Sandia, you're next.
Yeah, so it's Gino, great presentation. So I think it's more a remark than a question, and over the course of the hour, you spoke so much about values. I'm an entrepreneur also. I have a smart building technology firm.
Awesome.
And I think one of the things that when I joined the firm, it was 3 years old, and I said to the founders, now my business partner, we don't have mission, vision, and values. And it was kind of like, oh, why should we do that? Why is that important? I'm like, no, we need to do it as an exercise. Maybe 2 or 3 months into my tenure there, we had another guy on the team that wasn't living up to those values, right? And kind of reflecting back on that, that was the vehicle that we used to say, look, you're not fitting to our organization. Maybe you shouldn't stick around here. Maybe you should find a place that's more aligned to what you want to do in life. So I don't think it's an exercise that companies should do and just stick in the drawer somewhere.
No, it's not marketing. I agree with you. Yes.
Yeah,
It's not
so
a marketing thing.
If you do it and you really live by that, it becomes your compass in everything that you do every day. And what I could say, Gino, is I've had opportunities to speak with Jake and speak with Jennifer Outland and other parts of your organization. And I think having those values right at the top, it trickles down to everyone beneath, and the way that they deliver service and interact with vendors and partners. Believe me, the values done correctly,
yes,
they make it down to everyone.
It's hard. And it's one of those things where it is a marketing thing and people self-select. That's why the Jake and Gino community, it's a tight-knit community. There's students who may get on, they're going to self-select. If they don't adhere to the core values, it's going to be challenging for them. So for us, like I said, I had that one restaurant because I couldn't find the right employees because I didn't have that compass to be able to find the right employees.
That's great thought there. Thank you, Jeff. Sandhya.
Hi, thank you so much for being here. I've been a huge fan of Gino, and of course, thanks to Julie for bringing you here. I have syndicated about 6 deals now in Dallas and most of them are 60s and 70s properties. So now I'm getting all the deal flow I need from brokers, but they're older properties. And another thing I need to do if I want to grow bigger is to start, establishing some systems and processes. So my question is, how do I figure out what people I should hire from a VA perspective versus actually having an in-person local executive assistant? Like, what are some thought process you go through to decide, okay, I can give exact instructions with a Loom video and get a VA to do this versus, I need somebody like actually in my meetings and doing stuff with me?
That's a great question. I think the first thing you need, as you start scaling, we brought bookkeeping in-house. And the bookkeeper we have is a rock star. She is awesome. The last thing we brought in, which I hope we should have brought in sooner, was our HR department. I mean, human resources, where we started hiring, because we've got about 60, 65 people. And when Jake wanted to hire that person, I'm like, come on, dude, we got to spend another lifesaver. Because when I have to hire somebody, they're going through 10 and 15 interviews before they come to me, and we hire based on the core values. As far as VA, depending on what you're trying to accomplish with your business, there may be tasks that a VA can do as far as posting on social media, but anything that's high in priority, like if you're going to be speaking to investors, I wouldn't want a VA to do that. I'd want to control that process myself. If you're going to deal flow, obviously talking to brokers, that's another task that I want to do myself. Anything that you think is redundant, anything that you think that you can outsource that is lower level. I'm trying to think of stuff that I outsource here. Doing PowerPoints. I'm looking at a PowerPoint right now. I used to do my own PowerPoints. I used to do the IMA and everything. I used to edit my podcasts. I mean, there's so many things that I used to do myself that I just ended up saying, okay, here's a VA. And then as you start scaling up, the first person that we hired was that assistant, that executive assistant. Then I hired an operations manager because we started doing events. So that operations manager is really, really important. And for me, without Josh being here, he's on the screen right now, I wouldn't be here without a sales team. I just couldn't sell my own product. So for the entrepreneur, if you're not the salesperson, you need to find somebody who can create the sales. And I always had a skewed outlook on sales. Same side selling is what we employ. You want to work with somebody, find impact together. So for me, that sales was such a difficult component to it because I always had that skewed outlook. So for me, going out there, finding someone to help you with sales is that's something that I would bring in house if you're in that part of the business.
So accounting, executive assistant, HR eventually, and then sales. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. You're welcome.
Fantastic. Snowy or Zach? You're on. You're up.
Hey, Zach here. More or less is just a plug for their event. I went to the one they had last November. Awesome event. You guys are great. Talked to Gino and I've talked to Josh a few times. So we're pretty involved in another group, but I was like, Josh is eventually probably going to convince me to come and hang out with you guys a little bit more eventually, but maybe another deal or two later. But No, I definitely, you can feel, I've been to a lot of events, and your guys feels like the most family slash caring type group of the syndication slash mentoring groups that I'm around. So it's, I mean, I've done quite a bit, but like, I can definitely tell that you guys definitely a lot more on the education is better. I can just from talking to the guys that are in your group and stuff like that. So
I appreciate
anyway,
that. I think one thing, Zach, I'd like to say is we've been talking about core values. I want everyone to leave this call by thinking that we are all a specific brand. Everyone on this call is a brand. And I was talking to Andrew Cordell on a podcast a couple of weeks ago. What's that one word that you want people to think about when they think about your company or your brand? And you said it, Zach. I want everyone to think of my brand as a family. His brand was experience. He has a podcast. He wants to have that experience. For me, it's family, and that's what I want to come through the brand, because my ultimate goal is to really teach children about personal financial intelligence. People with financial intelligence can change the world for the better. I truly believe that. That's what my mission is in life, and I want to do that. And ultimately, I want that brand, that one word, I want it to be family. So as you guys are going through your core values and building your companies out and building your own personal brands, what's that one word that's going to resonate and is really going to stick out and really going to define what your company is all about?
So powerful. Thank you. I just love it. And Vessi just bought her ticket for MM5. So this is, you get one. How many more can get into this conference, you guys? It's well worth it. It's worth the time. We got one more question. Candace is always great at asking wonderful questions. Candace, what do you got? Oh, wait a minute.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
There
Sorry.
you go.
Actually, it's more on what you just said, Gino. First of all, fantastic to hear everything that you said. I just can't say that enough. And the last thing you just talked about is they're talking about teaching children about financial freedom, just all about finances. I am in the process, and I'm not doing this to toot my own horn, but I'm in the process of writing a book that does just that. And I'm also working with another, are you familiar with George Antone?
I've heard of him.
He has started the group Finance, spelled with a Y. I would love to connect with you or one of your assistants just to connect the two of you.
Sure.
Because that's his life mission, is particularly children, is to teach the financial aspect of life that is just disregarded in any of the classrooms. So I would be, if you guys connected, power would be just a powerful force.
That's awesome. I mean, I love talking about money, and not only what money is, but what money can do for people. And I think that money's gotten a bad rap. Capitalism has gotten a bad rap.
Yes.
And I think, we've all, listen, my mom, I love my mom, but those words that she used for me, we have to stay small. Don't take risk.
True.
And that just, okay, that's why I have one restaurant, Mom, and the risk. And then not understanding proper finances, not understanding how to use debt properly, not understanding a lot of these things. They taught me a lot of great things as far as not having that instant gratification, being able to save, but let's save to buy an asset, not let's save for retirement. Let's save to buy an asset so that asset pays for our retirement, right? That's the whole entire thing that I'd love to teach children. And for me, it's something that if we don't do that, we're going to lose this country, because it's about being intelligent with our money. And it's very, very hard nowadays with all of this stuff out there. And that's why long-termism to me is really important. If you're thinking about long-term and have that long-term vision, you'll defer the car. You'll wait for the car, right? That's not important. You'll wait to buy the couch. You'll wait to buy the TV. It's not important. Those material things aren't going to ultimately bring you satisfaction. Being able to choose to buy those is more powerful than actually buying those. I can buy a Lambo a month for the rest of my life. I don't want one. I don't need one. But the optionality of doing that, being able to do what I want, when I want, where I want, that's what I want our kids to have those options. The quality of our life is dependent upon the quality of our options that we have. And the more options that you have, the more quality of life that you're gonna be able to have in life.
So powerful, so wonderful to have you. We've learned a ton listening to you. I know I have. I can speak for myself. And you're just such a treat to have. And I hope that, we'll be able to sit down and have a drink when I come to the conference in November.
Absolutely.
And, if you need me to get on the stage, I am a little bit shy at times, but I think I can handle it. But I
No,
do.
you're awesome. You're a great presenter, great body language. I mean, you've got the whole thing. You're a pro at this. What are you kidding me?
Okay. I really appreciate it. It's been an amazing evening with you. I'd love for you to stay. If you have to leave, I thank you again for joining us tonight. And